The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Metal Show.
A different kind of marijuana boom is hitting Colorado: home explosions. Ever since the sale of recreational pot became legal last year, authorities have been dealing with blasts caused by the production of hash oil, a new and dangerous effort to produce a more potent form of pot. Our report tonight from NBC's Gabe Gutierrez.
Burn the hole! Burn the hole!
It's an explosive problem, one that can tear through a home in an instant. Captain Siegfried Klein with the Aurora Fire Department organized this demonstration to show how butane can ignite when amateurs use it to extract hash oil from marijuana plants. A new and dangerous effort to produce a more concentrated form of pot at home.
And that's the attraction, the purity of this.
Purity.
You get a cleaner or a more potent high from this.
A very potent high.
Windows blown out, kitchens ripped apart. In 2013, Colorado saw just 12 of these explosions, but last year that number jumped to 32. Dozens of people have been hospitalized. Amazingly, no one has died.
It goes up in a split second.
Very fast, very quick. It's not going to allow people to get out of the area in time.
Here at the state capitol, no one would argue that this type of hash oil extraction isn't dangerous. But given that Colorado voters have legalized marijuana, the question is it a crime?
I think some districts believe we can already prosecute people for trying to create butane hash oil at home, and there's other jurisdictions that don't think so. So I think it's a place for clarification.
Andrew Friedman, the governor's so-called marijuana czar, supports lawmakers who right now are trying to regulate hash oil processing. But some feel this is a civil issue, not a criminal one.
I mean, we voted on it. It's legal. It shouldn't be in the criminal system.
Paul Manioni is charged with arson and manufacturing marijuana after one of these explosions in Denver. He's pleaded not guilty.
The people that were doing this were following Colorado law, and accidents do happen, but in this country, an accident does not mean that a crime has necessarily occurred.
Either way, police and firefighters here are on alert.
Is this one of the unintended consequences of marijuana legalization? Exploding houses?
Yeah, it is. It's a very dangerous consequence.
A consequence virtually no one expected during Colorado's marijuana boom. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, Denver.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up. It's time to climb on the high horse. Live from the PetPain.com studios. Once again, it is the Full Melt Show. And I'm steaming mad. I'm steaming mad, I tell you. I'll tell you why. Can I tell you why? That would be a good thing. Look, please, people, have some common sense. Or really, is that too much to ask for? Just a little bit of common sense. Uh-oh. You know what? I have to, I don't think Mr. Leitner knows, but I want to. I have to answer this call. I'm going to take this call while we're on the air, but I'm not going to connect him. I'm not going to connect him to the studio. Mr. Leitner. That's okay. Listen, normally I'm off the air at this point in time. We're doing some testing today, and so we started broadcasting a little bit late today because there's some test people working on the mobile app stuff. So, yeah, I'm on the air right now. If you'll be around in about an hour? That would be perfect, because I've got a great story. It's tied into marijuana, but it's not necessarily, right on marijuana. But we'll kick it around. All right, because it's huge. I'm telling you, it's gigantic. Okay, thanks, Bill. All right, bye-bye. Listen, I think that this is huge. I think it's huge. This story I'm working on this story. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag yet. But I'm telling you, if we can get it out there, and I'm waiting for some supportive documentation yet, it's still a work in progress. I cannot let the cat out of the bag. But I'm telling you, this story is going to be gigantic. But back to the common sense thing, because I'm still steaming mad. Did I tell you that? I'm steaming mad. When you're talking about making a concentrate out of marijuana, you're always going to use some kind of solvent. It could be a water-based solvent. Water is a solvent. And if you're making a hash type concentrate out of marijuana with water, the key is getting it cold and using material that is completely dry. Now, some people have, we can make it wet. Yeah, but it's not a very efficient way to do it. If you want to get most of the crystallization off of the plant or most of the oil-based product out of the plant, a lot of the terpenes and other things, you want that plant to be as dry and as cold as possible. And then when you're doing that ice water process through the filtration bags, the crystals break off of the plant material. They separate much easier. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen, this is a little bit of education for people who are unaware. For people who are aware, this is, you're boring me. But I'll just give you a little recap. The THC molecule, or not molecule, but the crystal, if you look at it under a microscope, when you look at the crystal on the plant, it looks like a little lollipop, right? It's a stick with a little bulb on the end. And the little bulb starts out clear, and then when it ripens, it turns like a frosty white color. So the resin produces the little stick, the little lollipop thing forms, but it's clear. It's not ripe yet. You can see right through it. It's translucent. There's no coloration to it. Later on, after it's completely ripened, it's like a frosty color. It's white. It turns white basically. It's no longer translucent. You can't see through it anymore. You couldn't see anything behind it. And then when it gets really ripe, beyond that point, it turns like an amber color. And so at some stage when it's either frosty or amber color, that's when you want to break it off of there, right? And so when you break it off using this cold water process, this solvent called water, it has to be cold. But when it breaks off, it'll break off that whole stick and lollipop. The whole lollipop breaks off the plant. Now, mind you, the THC itself is in the lollipop part, the sucker part. That's the part that has the magic in it, right? That's where all the stuff is. The stick part is still plant material. It's not the green plant material. It's not the leaf material, but it's still plant material. There's no really active ingredient in that part. But you get the whole thing, and that's the difference between solvent-based, like a chemical solvent-based extracts and, say, a cold water extraction extract, using water as a solvent instead of a cold chemical. You get the whole stick. And that's kind of the difference in some of the coloration and some of the consistency and the texture and the properties in regular, what you call bubble hash. Now, when you move into the other solvents, the chemical solvents, and this could be anything. There's a whole host of them they use. I would suggest probably the best one for health purposes, under all circumstances, would be a non-chemical based. Well, let me put that in another way. A non-petrochemical based solvent. So there's a supercritical CO2 process where you can get carbon dioxide cold enough that it acts as a solvent, right? And this is the same process that they use to decaffeinate coffee beans. It's just a much bigger machine. I cannot imagine what that thing costs. It's a supercritical CO2 extraction machine that they run coffee beans through, and it takes out the caffeine. And then it's a yellow powder when they get done with it. And they used the CO2, the super cold CO2, to get it out of there. Like I said, it acts as a solvent. It strips it off like a paint thinner. And then when the carbon dioxide turns back into a gas from a liquid, because that's when it turns really cold, it's a liquid, it leaves behind this yellowy powder. And the yellowy powder is what they sell to Mountain Dew and other people. That's not why Mountain Dew is yellow. It's just the caffeine's yellow when it comes out of the bean. They sell it to the food industry, and they put it in food products, like Mountain Dew, like some other, sodas and other foods that have caffeine in them. Specific energy drinks, big into the energy drinks. And so I'm explaining this to you because you don't see the industry that does coffee, the coffee industry, using petrochemicals to get the caffeine out. They don't do this. And there's a good reason why. It's not a healthy way to do it. It's just not. I don't care how much, purging. You can't get it all out of there. In some cases, when you're using butane, it leaves, metals and other things behind that you are then attempting to vaporize and smoke. And I just don't think, no matter how small those numbers are, that they're acceptable. When there's something like CO2 that has no volatility to it whatsoever. It's not petrochemical. And if you ingest it, it's harmless. It's carbon dioxide. It's all around you. It's certainly not something that's going, if you end up with a little bit of carbon dioxide left over in some of that product, it's just carbon dioxide. You're exhaling it. It's already present in your body in the system that you're expiring. So the point is, with this information up front, this news piece by NBC and CNBC, because I think I got it from CNBC, about making butane hash oil. First off, I think it's a bad process. If that's the only way you got, and that's what you got to work with, and that's what you want to do, so be it. But please, people, use some common sense. This is not a process that you can do indoors under any circumstances. Can you do it? Yes. Will your house blow up? Yes. Trust me. These demonstrations aren't, very accurate because I don't think the method by which they show you the demonstration is the same by which a fire takes place or an explosion takes place in a house that is doing butane the way they're doing butane. The way this, because what happens is you run the butane through the cannabis, and then it comes out the other end through a pipe or some kind of pipe, and it comes out the other end as butane and the active ingredient. But then you've got to get rid of the butane, and as the butane escapes, the wax gets thicker. It's harder for the butane to escape, and it's trapped behind. And explosions loom. Slightly more on this and much, much more coming up.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with Max Power monster aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
Introducing Sacred Element. A place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dort Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moves from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the Big Cup competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
You can hear us normally Monday through Friday from 7 until 8 p.m. Today, as I revealed to you when I took a call earlier, I wanted to take that call. I didn't want to lose that call. Working on this story. We're on today a little bit late because we're doing some testing, mobile app testing stuff. It's technical crap. I'm mired in technical crap forever I am. It's 2 years in the making. I can't stand it anymore. Anyway, so what we're doing here, I want to tell you about in a minute, is this big story in the Rolling Stone? The Rolling Stone article, I think. Yeah, it's rollingstone.com. This bit about fighting marijuana policy. Fighting marijuana legalization is bad politics, according to a poll. There's a big article. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I wanted to finish up this thought about making these extracts, because I think it's a really important thing. For Pete's sake, the chief thing here is health, safety, and welfare, right? That's the number one goal. Let's not get off that goal. You can dance around the politics of cannabis all you want. If you're not healthy and safe, what does it matter? Really. So I really want to stress the idea that if you're planning on doing this and haven't done it before, please, number one, even if you don't do any research or anything else, and I think you should, because I think if you're doing any of this kind of stuff and you don't know about the science of it, you're a fool. But if you're going to do it, please don't do it indoors. I know you're not working with a lab-grade hood in a facility that's designed to handle petrochemical fumes. You can't even run those fumes through a standard exhaust fan because there are electrical sparks that can take place in those fans that will cause the entire ventilation system to explode. You got to use the right ventilation, and you have to understand the science of this. Absent that, and I'm suggesting that's 99.9% of the cases of people who are going to do this, and the other 0.1% or whatever is going to be people who are at least knowledgeable in what they're doing because they've got the money to afford to go to a place or create a place where this can be done safely. There's a way to do it safely. It's expensive. The cheapest way to do this safely, at least in a much safer way, because it's not safe at all to work with explosives. Butane is in a butane lighter. I mean, it's a liquid inside the lighter. You ever have one of those things explode in your pocket? I mean, it's under pressure. I'm sure you've had an opportunity, if you're a smoker, that you've seen a butane lighter misfire. Spit little bubbles of fire. You know, the valve doesn't work right. It stays open. It's leading a stream of liquid butane out. Oh, this is dangerous stuff. In fact, the amount of butane in a standard hand lighter, a disposable lighter, is the equivalent of, I believe it's a half stick of dynamite in there, in explosive force. Just that little amount of butane. Now, when you're doing these extracts, you're using a lot more butane than is in a Bic lighter, by leaps and bounds. It's in a larger can, and people get these in various sources. I'm not going to go into all of that, but they use these much larger cans of butane. It's usually 30 fluid ounces or more. And if you're using that size of a can, they'll use, depending on what kind of system they're using, how much volume they're doing, because how much volume of marijuana product itself that they're doing. They'll use various numbers of these cans. Now, each one of these cans could fill up probably, 25 or 30 Bic lighters. So you do the math on the explosive force here. I mean, even if we do it on the conservative side and say it's a quarter stick of dynamite, 4 of them is equal to 1 stick of dynamite. So 4 Bic lighters equal 1 stick of dynamite. If you're doing, 25 Bic lighters in a can, and I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass, but just for argument's sake, how many sticks of dynamite is in that can? Now, I know when I've done this, and I have. I'm using 6 cans of butane. Now multiply that figure times 6. That's the explosive force, its potential force in estimation, just for graphical purposes, that you're playing with here. That butane, when it's liquid, is compressed into that can in 30 fluid ounces. When it turns to a gas, it expands to a much larger volume. And there comes the explosive force. So if you're doing this indoors where there's no ventilation, even if there is ventilation, it's not going to be good enough to stop the butane from building up. Butane is heavier than carbon dioxide. It goes to the ground immediately. You ever seen dry ice bubble over? You put some dry ice in some water. They do it like at Halloween. They put it in the witch's cauldron, and the dry ice bubbles over the sides and, spookily, eerily drains down to the floor and covers the floor in a hazy fog. It's cold. It's cold fog. But carbon dioxide does that. It's CO2. It's frozen carbon dioxide. That's what dry ice is. And it goes to the ground. But butane is heavier than carbon dioxide. It's going to seek the ground quicker, right? And it's gonna seek the lowest point. It's gonna find a spark somewhere, and when butane and oxygen reach 9 to 11%, you're gonna get an ignition. And when that happens, and there's that much expansive volume of butane, I mean, a single can in a gaseous form would fill an entire, like a mobile home, would fill the whole home when it expands. If you let it all out as a gas, and that's what you're doing here. Now, as a liquid, you got other problems. I mean, I've seen this stuff catch fire not in a gaseous form in the room where an explosion happens, but I've seen it catch fire where the plate caught fire, where the plate that people are doing. We're doing the evaporation process. You evaporate that gas off, and when that happens, that's where all that gas is going. It's all trapped inside of whatever building you're in unless you've got a proper vent that you've got it under. And that whatever exhaust with that vent is using is appropriate for petrochemical gases. Hydrocarbons. It's got to be able to process hydrocarbons through its ventilation without sparking, without causing an ignition. It's got to guarantee that. If not, it's just a recipe for a bomb. And that's what people are doing. They're blowing their houses up because they don't know what they're doing in making these extracts. And I suggest that the very extracts in that form, using in that method, are not necessarily safe either. I'm not condemning the system because there are some people that's a much smaller risk. Even though it's not safe, it's much safer than not having access to cannabis for them in that form. And there are lots of people. I won't go into them because the list is way too long. I've gone over on this topic already. But for them, they may make the active, informed choice that, look, I understand there's some risk associated with this. We're doing the best we can to minimize that risk, to mitigate it. But we're consuming it anyways, understanding that this is a potential health risk, but a much smaller one than the one that's presently being unattended to because we need the cannabis. We need the extract. So I'm not chastising the process. It's going to be done. People are going to do it. You can't say no. I'm suggesting it's not a good way to do it. But if you're going to do it, please do it out of doors. That doesn't mean in a garage. It doesn't mean any kind of containment whatsoever, not even a roof. Just out of doors. In this way, you're going to be able to not suffer the damage caused by containment of those gases as they expand, and they will. Because even though butane seeks the lowest point, if it doesn't have any place to go to, a.k.a. the floor of your room or your building, whatever you're in, it's going to start building upwards. And I'm just telling you, there's a layer in there where the gas and the oxygen are rich enough together that an ignition will happen. And the reason they use butane in lighters in the first place is because it's a very funky gas. It doesn't want to ignite with too much oxygen present, and it doesn't want to ignite with too much butane present. It wants that 9 to 11%. That's what it wants. That's where ignition is most likely. And that's why when you use a Bic lighter or any kind of, disposable lighter, it sometimes is hard to get it to light because it's not hitting that 9 to 11% when you put your thumb on that button and the spark happens. They have to happen together. And this is just basic science. If you just look up the basic principles of science involved in solvents and involved with the properties of the items, the chemicals that you're working with, and I would suggest that the oil or wax that you're trying to extract from the plant in the first place is indeed a chemical. It's a natural one, but it is a concentrate. It doesn't exist in natural form. Let's just face those facts, please. Use common sense. Face the facts, because they are factual. I wouldn't give you erroneous information. I would not do that to you. I wouldn't even guess at it. I wouldn't just talk out of my ass unless I'm making up numbers to illustrate a design. And then I'll make up some numbers just to, paint a picture. But I wouldn't give you false information. And I'm telling you from personal experience, because I've had this kind of stuff explode indoors. I'll give you a real quick story. There was a time where I was doing this out of doors as I was supposed to, but guess what happened? Guess what? I didn't plan for it, because you can't plan for the unexpected. I didn't plan for bad weather. It started raining. And you don't want rain in that extract, in that solution. It's petrochemical. And it's oil-based. Oil and water don't mix. You don't want that in there. You've got to get rid of it. It's going to have water in there. It's got to drain off. It's got to dry out in addition to getting the, expelling the rest of the butane. So it started raining, and I'm like, oh, crap. So I'm covering it up. I'm standing over it with a cover, and I'm thinking, I'm going to breathe this gas in. This isn't good either. So I stood up, and I brought it indoors, but I left the door open. And I only brought it indoors a short ways. I left the door open for a reason. It's got a place to escape to, and so do I. In case, because I wouldn't have brought it inside because there's only a little bit of butane left. It was almost done. Maybe a half inch of butane left in a small tray. And when I brought it inside, I sat it down on the edge of something that had a barrier between it and what I knew was an existing flame. It was a pilot light. But there was a barrier between it. So I thought the barrier would be enough that the gas would go to the floor. There wasn't that much of it left anyways. It'd be safe, be okay. I was wrong. That gas built up, and it went over the edge of that barrier, and it found its way to that flame. Now, I couldn't tell you by seeing it because it happens faster than you can see it. You couldn't visually, because it just ignited on its own. It's almost as if a spirit came by and lit the flame. Really. I'm not lying to you. You couldn't see it ignite, but I know, just knowing science, I know what happened. That gas built up, and it went over the edge, and it hit 9%, and that flame ignited it. And quicker than you could see, it climbed that 9 to 11%, mixture along. Because down at the counter, it was heavier than that. It was more butane than would ignite. It's too heavy. It's too thick. It won't ignite. But that little layer was enough to be a fuse between that little pilot light up over the barrier and across faster than you can see it happen. I'm telling you, it's lightning fast because I couldn't see it, but I know where it happened. I know where the ignition source was. I just couldn't see it visually. It just went up in flames, and when it did, there was probably 18 inches of yellow flame coming off of what was on the bottom layer, butane, on the top layer, the floating oil, because the oil is going to float on top of that butane. It's just the way it works. Now, I knew this, and so because it did this inside, it was a small container, and I had mitigated risk. My secondary plan before touching it, because it's inside some water, a water bath, and it's bobbling around in there. It's going to make a mess if you try and touch it, and it's on fire now. Like I said, yellow flame about 18 inches high. But then I tried to cover it up with something. I tried to toss something over it, because if you smother it of oxygen, it can't burn, right? Well, what I didn't think of, again, what you can't expect, what you can't plan for, you can't plan for. What you can't anticipate, you can't plan for. I didn't anticipate what I already knew, which was that oil was floating on top of the butane. Guess what happened when I tried to use something to cover it up? The wind, just the air, the movement of air from me trying to cover it up with, I believe it was a plastic top. It was a big square plastic top to a larger thing. When I tossed it on there, it moved that oil aside just enough, and I missed just enough so it doesn't completely cover it, because I didn't want to get too close to it, and it was using plastic. That little wind pushed that oil layer aside and exposed that liquid butane to open flame. And now, instead of 18 inches of yellow flame, I had like 2.5, 3 feet of blue flame. Now, if you go back to, again, basic high school science, do you understand the difference between yellow and blue flame? It's temperature. And the flame is much bigger now. It's twice as big at least. So the temperature inside that little column, that little volume, was so hot that across the room, several feet away, in seconds, at the top of the room, where the heat was building up very quickly, in just seconds, it melted the blinds on both sides of the room, that wall. The blinds were melted. They all shriveled up. Now, at that point, I knew that there was a danger afoot that I had to stop immediately. So I grabbed that pile and pirouetted on one foot out the open door and grabbed the edge of that dish and flung it aside so that all of it went up in one big poof. I lost all the wax in there. And now I was a little bit on fire because there's liquid butane, so that's going to catch fire. And anything you're touching, it spills on. Not only is there butane, but it's kind of like a little bit, at that point, you're talking about working with something that's like napalm. Because that wax, that thick oil, is also flammable, and it's on fire because it's on the butane. Now it's stuck to you, too. So I had a little hand fire to put out and a little crotch fire to put out, which is comical by itself. But I was unscathed by that incident only because I knew what I was working with and I mitigated risk. I was a very lucky man, and I'll never, ever do that again. And I'm going to direct you not to ever do that butane extraction stuff indoors. It's a fool's game. That story coming up next.
Hey, na, 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 na. Oh, hey, now, let's go. Yeah, I've got style. I'll make it wild. I'll change it up and switch it up so versatile. I'll be myself, and I'm gonna let everybody know.
We have the latest styles to mix it and mash it. So make it your own and bend the trend. JCPenney. When it fits, you feel it. During the JCPenney Back to School Hot Sale, get an extra $10 off when you spend $25 or more with coupon. Nike, Converse, Levi's, and other exclusions apply.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with Max Power Monster Aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moves from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the Big Cup competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD Hemp Oil Drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the Allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio Show.
One 844-420-TALK is the number to call if you've got a question or a comment. Anytime you want to buzz in on the program, that's the easy access, the toll-free access we give you. 844-420-TALK. I think it's 8255. Also, really easy to find and subscribe to us on iTunes. Just go to thefullmelt.com. Right there on the front page. Click on the iTunes link. Click and subscribe. It's just that simple. So we've been talking about butane. I got to finish up. I'm still going on about the butane. Shut up about the butane already, Green. For Christ's sake. You know, there's much. This is a really much broader subject because it's not just the butane extractions. All of the other solvent-based extractions, alcohol and others, are flammable. And many times, in order to get the heat out of the alcohol or the other, you always use heat. You heat it up and it evaporates off. Again, I'm suggesting that these are not necessarily good methods of making any kind of concentrate for human consumption. I don't care if you're eating it or if you're, I guess the alcohol, if you're eating it, that method's not going to hurt you. But if you're doing other things with it, whatever it is, maybe tincture's okay with alcohol. I'd say that's all right. But if you're smoking this, if you're vaporizing this, if you're using these petrochemicals and then trying to purge of them, especially butane's the worst one. You're not going to get everything out. And be aware that many of these medibles and other things, not necessarily the commercial ones, there's a lot of good guys that do the commercial stuff that know what they're doing. I'd suggest that you do research on those products. Make sure that you're using products that people know have been tested for these residuals. That they're not using contaminated concentrate as a medicine base for any of these medibles. But again, I'm not suggesting it's a good thing to do, but people are going to do it, and they're going to keep doing it for a long time until we kind of self-police ourselves out of it. We'll have to do some shaming. Oh, I got shamed this weekend over at the Cannabis Cup. I got shamed. I don't know if he was from out of state, but he was a younger cat. He was like, da-da-da-da-da. Hey, da-da-da-da-da, I want to do a dab. And he found out that the dabs we had at our booth that we were doing were butane-based. And when he did, because he was all about it at first, and then he was like, oh, wait a minute. It's butane? No, I'm good on that. No, man, I'm good. And he walked away, turned and walked. It was kind of shaming. But that's the kind of stuff that's got to continue to happen to get people away from these. And then the demand stops, the supply stops. People start doing it right. And there are ways to do it right. I won't get into all of those. I'm just arguing about this now because I think it's important. I've had friends personally affected by this. I nearly, even with the knowledge that I have about this, and I'm not saying I'm a super scientist or anything, but I'm saying I understand the basic facts of science. I did well in science when I was in school. And I've done lab experiments. And I remember the properties of things. And, really before you start playing with the properties of anything that could be dangerous, you better understand those properties in great detail. What are the possibilities here? And plan for them. But again, you can't plan for what you don't know, what you're unaware of. So please just use common sense, do some research, figure it out, and do it the right way. I want to talk about this story because I've teased you on it, but I've got a special guest on the iPhone. This is the iPhone version of the Cadillac No Smell Bags phone lines. Welcome to the program, Ryan Bringold. Are you there, Ryan? Can you hear me?
I am here.
Yeah, he is.
I can hear you.
So, Ryan, I was talking before on the show because I assume you're probably not listening to the show right now. Oh, wait a minute! I'm sorry. I took you. I pushed the speakerphone button by accident. I was on autopilot. Sorry, people couldn't hear you. You're watching what?
Playing Repo Men. They go and take high-priced toys away from deadbeats.
Oh, you're watching Airplane Repo. I love that show.
It's funny. I love it.
The thing about that show, though, and you got to realize this: there's a lot of recreated scenes there.
Yes.
They do a lot of reenactment, and they reveal it, but the way the show's cut together, you'd never know. So I think there's a lot of this stuff that's based on a real story, and there's some actual footage that they do, but the rest of it they go back and mock up. And they do a good.
It's still pretty entertaining.
It is. It's really entertaining. I think it's funny that people would jump up in a plane like that. And did you see the one where I just watched one last night? In fact, where it was a repeat, but I think it was episode 4. They did a mid-air repossession.
Wow. No. I don't think I've seen that one.
It was pretty cool. The guy went up in the plane, and they tricked him. He was a tour guy. Like, he would take people up on tours. He'd charge people like a touring fee. And so he came on.
Oh, right.
He came on as a tourist. He's like, hey, this guy's like, this is my secretary. They're doing some kind of birthday thing. They're going to film it and embarrass me at the Christmas party. And so he talks his way out of this plane as a tourist, and he pays him. So they got a captain's package where you can fly in the pilot's or the co-pilot's chair. And so here he is flying in the co-pilot's chair, pretending he doesn't know anything about a damn plane. And in the middle of the flight, he's like, he starts leading on that he does know what he's talking about how to fly, because he lets him, hey, you want to try and fly the plane? He's like, sure. He's like, well, grab hold of the yoke. And he's like, what are these things on the floor? Then he starts to lead on that he knows what he's like, wait a minute, because he takes him in a big diving loop. And he's like, I think you know how to fly. And he's like, yeah, the rules of the game have changed. He goes, hand him the paperwork. And he hands him the paperwork. He goes, this plane is being repossessed. I'm an agent of the financer. And he's like, whoa. So, yeah, he did a mid-air repossession. And he talked him into, he says, look, I'll pay you to fly us to this local air show where I flew in. And then we'll pay to fly you back. But this plane now belongs back to the financer, not your boss. And he's like, done deal. So he flew him off. It was kind of funny. Anyway, way off topic. Sorry, I had to divert from that. Some things are entertaining. Look, I was talking about butane extractions and how foolish people are when they blow up their houses or catch them on fire with any of these extraction processes that use they use flammable liquids or solvents. We're going through an exercise of that. So that's what we were talking about before. But I had teased everybody on this Rolling Stone article that suggests that there's a poll out there saying fighting marijuana legalization is bad politics. Now, the reason that Ryan called, I think, is because I was talking to Ryan earlier about recapping the stuff happening at the Cannabis Cup. Cup. All right, so I'll go back to this story. How much time do we got left here? What are we looking at? 46. So we only got a few minutes left in this break, anyways. Let's just have some fun and dip into the Cannabis Cup, and I'll do that story last. That'll be the last thing we do on the show tonight. So, now you did not have a chance. Did we have you on the air over the weekend? We did 4 hours of broadcasting. You stepped in for half a second, didn't you? It was like just a quick cameo.
Yep. Quick. What was it? Sunday afternoon, probably around 1 o'clock, 1:30, something like that.
We barely beat the rain, Ryan.
Yeah, it was, Michigan's all about tradition. I dropped that little information on Dan Sky. He didn't smile when I said it, so I don't think he likes the tradition of the rain. But hey.
So what you're saying, what you're saying is that the rain at the cup ceremony time is a traditional thing now. It's been established 2 years in a row, cemented down. That's the tradition.
That's it. That's how it starts.
Maybe we should bring some people who can do like an anti-rain dance or something, as like a pre-cup ceremony to keep the rain away.
I say we just power through it and just live with it. It's rain. It happens everywhere every day.
I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring a big poster with rain on it. Just big like a rainstorm, just raindrops everywhere, going in like one direction, and and if there's no rain at the next Clio Cannabis Cup ceremony, I'm just gonna hold it up in remembrance, like America.
I think there you go.
Anyway.
Like I said, it didn't matter. That's a long weekend. It's a great event. I'm glad that they did have the awards and the people were able to collect their awards. And
it was under
put a lot of effort and work.
It was under the arm of an umbrella.
That's right, but it still happened, and people got their awards, and that's important.
Well, it is. It is. I was really floored when they didn't have it the first year. They're like, "Well, yeah, it's kind of dangerous. We're not going to do it." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't anticipate that." That was not one of the selections that I would have, checked off on a box. The award ceremony not held due to weather.
Right. It was. I'll tell you what. This was the fourth cup. I did one in Denver with you. I did one in Seattle, and I've done two in Michigan. In both the Denver and Seattle operation is much different than how the Michigan operation works. Michigan's a smaller event, but it's a more intimate event. People. There's a lot of friendship, a lot of camaraderie in the Michigan Cannabis Cup, where in the other two cities, they were battling, groups were battling this company against that company. And, the Michigan group isn't like that.
Cannabis Cup Wars.
It's a different scene. Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's friendly to a degree, but there's a lot of smack talk, and some of it's a little bit more than that. So the Michigan Cup has a cool vibe to it. I have to say it's much different than the ones I've seen, out of state, which is, once again, only two out of state, but they were different.
Well, I think the Michigan Cup has been, different all along, really, hasn't it? I mean, because they held the first one, they kind of stuck their toe in the water, so to speak, and it was a little frigid there a bit, wasn't it? I mean, and then the Shooty opinion came down and kind of, made the conditions even worse. So they're like, okay, no cup in Michigan for the next 2 years. And then finally they're like, well, there are sustaining cities that have dispensaries that have never been rated and have been open for a long time. Let's just work on that. And they did. And what a great idea. And I'm so glad that they did.
Oh, absolutely. What an opportunity for people in Michigan to get out and experience and know, what the cannabis community is about. And the people that came into Clio, Flint, Birch Run area that spent all those dollars, that's a lot of money that comes into a community.
It means a lot to the local economy. Listen, Ryan, you can't hear it, but we're going to break, so hang on through the break with us. We'll be right back for more of the Full Melt Show.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the Allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Oh, man, we're going to turn it into a 2-hour show. Ryan, I think we're going to have to turn this into a 2-hour show, is what I think. It's just because there never seems to be enough time to get everything done. I mean, there's so much to talk about. God, you know, when there's more callers, I was going to say when there's more callers on the show, it's going to be crazy because we'll never squeeze everything in. Go ahead.
That's why you have to have a show every day. You're never going to catch up, though.
No. I mean, I think the material will always get bigger than the show is, but you know, we'll deal with that later. Listen, breaking news. I've got to give you some breaking news. It's not really big. It's not. Thank you for those sound effects. It's not big breaking news, but it's funny breaking news. So there's this picture I saw online today. It's a Facebook picture. It's just a little meme picture. Well, it's really not even a meme. It's just a picture by itself. And so there's a line of police in front of like some big city high-rise office building, and they look like city police. But they're using their bikes as a barricade. They're patrol officers on bikes, and they've got the bikes back to back to back as a barricade. And there's a group of people, protesters, behind the bikes, and they've all got a long stick with a string hanging off the stick with a donut tied to it. So they're like fishing with the cops. They're like, look, there's a donut. And so I thought it was really
fish for police.
I thought it was really funny, so I posted it on the Full Melt's Facebook page. And the hashtag that I put with it, or the little side comment that I put with it, was Chris Christie got high and is barricaded.
Too funny.
So the breaking news was that Russ Belville retweeted that or whatever. He thought it was funny too. Oh, sometimes, you know, the life of a cannabis news teller, the comedy never ceases to amaze. The real breaking news is that they finally announced the venue information for the Jamaica Cannabis Cup in November, didn't they, Ryan? Did I break the news with that to you? Was that new to you?
That was new to me. I didn't know they released that, but as soon as you told me, I obviously went right to hightimes.com to find out that it was at the world-famous 7 Mile Beach.
Oh, wow. 7 Mile Beach. And that's in
7 Mile Beach.
And that's at Negril, Jamaica.
Yes, sir.
And
there's two parts of Negril. In one part they call the Cliffs, and the other part is the 7 Mile Beach. So I was wondering where they were going to have it. You know, I actually thought, and I believe I said to you, that I was thinking Rick's Cafe, which is world-famous Rick's Cafe on the Cliffs. But I guess the event is much bigger than what I thought it was going to be, and that's why they're at 7 Mile Beach. 7
Mile Beach is a huge complex, I take it?
It's a huge beach. It sounds like, from what I read, it's going to be an open air right on the beach.
Yeah. Look, if you want,
literally,
go ahead.
It's literally a 7 Mile Beach, so you know it should be really.
So
really
what you're saying is you're suggesting that you're surmising by what you read on the High Times website that, and I didn't get a chance to review it all because I was busy working with tech people and doing show stuff. but I did see the blurb. They sent me an email and gave me the update on the event announcement. And so it's not the event announcement, but the location of the event announcement. And so when I saw, you're suggesting that the information that you saw leads you to believe that this will be much like the Speedway is in Michigan at the Clio event, where it's all out of doors. There was really hardly anything indoors. The only thing they did indoors were the speakers. They had speakers in a small little, I don't know, it's like a garage kind of thing. It's shaped like a garage.
Yeah, it's got a pole barn.
Yeah,
pole barn, tool shed, work shed.
Yeah, it's a big.
Not that it was not clean and neat and beautiful, because it was.
No, it was really nice, but I'm just saying the building itself was just that's the only thing that was indoors though, because there are other indoor parts to the venue that there's concessionaires and there's other stuff, but other than that, at a Speedway you're not inside, you're outdoors. Everything is outside, and that's where the Cup is in Clio. You're thinking that this is much like that. It's a big open outdoor venue right there on the beach. They'll probably cordon it off. How cool is that?
That is amazing. I mean, once again, it's a world famous location. People, flock there. It's a tourist destination. It's amazing. I mean, this should be one of the biggest events that High Times ever has done. I mean, you're in Jamaica, man.
I want to go. We should be doing a broadcast from there. I'm going to try and talk to Dan and them and see if we're in good enough graces with them to be invited on board, because I'll figure out a way to get there. If they'll give us tickets to get in, I'll figure out a way to get there. And we'll do a live broadcast from
all
there.
I could say is that what a combination, to have some Michigan media outlets that are actually interested in promoting the event, get Michigan, Cup people down there, and just get everybody coast to coast. I mean, it's a great opportunity for you and for High Times.
Ryan, I'm going to swing this bat because there's seconds left in the show, I think. Just guessing, but the time says we're almost out. New public policy polling survey from early primary states, Iowa and New Hampshire, has found that a solid majority of Republican respondents approve of states' rights to carry out marijuana policy reform without the feds cracking down. The survey, commissioned by Marijuana Majority, found that 64% and 67% of Republican respondents in Iowa and New Hampshire, respectively, agree that states should be able to carry out their own marijuana laws without federal interference. What do you think of them apples?
I think it's states' rights. I love it.
Well, you got to give states the ability to. I mean, they are their own entity, unto themselves, and I think there's a place for federal supremacy. But when you're talking about policy like this, and the federal policy's been so outlandishly crazy, I mean, on all fronts, extremes, over something so benign, totally corrupting both politics and also the criminal justice system, and holding the U.S. taxpayer hostage to all of it, is absolute lunacy.
Madness. It's absolute madness. You're right.
So when that kind of thing happens, I think there should be an exception, because what was the founding father that said an unjust law is no law at all? What is that? Where did that quote come from? Isn't that Thomas Jefferson? Who said that?
My hands are tied. I don't know that one.
You don't know. I'm gonna look it up.
I don't know.
I'm embarrassed that I don't. As a patriot, as an American, I'm embarrassed that I don't know. I'm gonna search it real quick. I'm just gonna see if it'll. Oh, it won't let me do it. An unjust law is no law at all. Let's see if I'm Googling it. It's bad that I gotta Google it.
I think this is a topic that we've talked about before a little bit about the Republicans should embrace.
I was correct.
Cannabis.
I was correct. It was Thomas Jefferson. If a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, he is obligated to do so. And that's what I'm saying is the exception to the Supremacy Clause. It's not written in the Constitution, but one of the founders of our country, a great thinker, and one of our former presidents, Thomas Jefferson, believes with me that if a law is unjust, the question is, who gets to determine it's unjust, Ryan? Really? But I think as a populace, the polling says
majority of the people.
Right, the people have said that. So this is the exception. This is the grand exception, and there will be others. I think some other critical things coming to light. More. I think this pendulum is swinging on Roe versus Wade. Things have been picked apart with the whole thing about abortion. I think there are tyrannical elements inside the religious the religious elements inside of our country that and they're not. I'm not talking about Muslim terrorists. I'm talking about Christian ones. There's just some crazy stuff going on in our country. And today, a TV reporter and her cameraman get shot to death on live television. I mean, oh my God.
Unbelievable.
Did you see that footage, Ryan? Did you see the footage that the guy filmed himself?
Yep. Yep. That was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
My jaw is still on the ground.
It was almost, I'll tell you what. When I watched that, I had the same reaction as I did when I saw the planes hit the Twin Towers in New York. I didn't believe it. I thought it was a movie. I thought I was watching an HBO movie.
I don't know that it rises to that level, but it certainly will stay in the consciousness of people for a very long time to come. CNN never went off of it after it started. Listen, Ryan, the show's over. Thanks for coming on and talking about it. We squeezed everything in, I think. We'll see you tomorrow for another edition of The Full Melt Show.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.